Welcome, everybody, back to the Metal Command podcast. I'm joined by two guys who came up in a scene that highly influenced me and this show. Of course, I got Rick and Doug from the band Nefarious. Of course, many of you may know those guys as playing both, Rick playing in Exodus and obviously Doug playing in Heathen in a few other bands. But gentlemen, it's great to be able to talk to you for the first time because you both have a brand new band. I think that's great. And you guys played in bands that really helped shape me as a metalhead. So it's really great to have you both here.
Thanks for having us, buddy.
Glad to hear that. It's been kind of an interesting procedure, all of it. We were just honest, crazy young musicians, just getting really into music back in the early 80s, and then one thing led to another, and now we're here. Jesus, I don't know how to explain it much more straightforward than that.
It's been a ride.
Yeah, so you have this band, you have a lot of great musicians that basically came up through the thrash scene over the years. And how did this whole thing come together for you guys?
Go ahead on that one, Doug.
Well, I was up until I was playing in a band called Blind Illusion for a while. Tom and I were, and after we finished the third European tour, we decided we were gonna stop doing that. And I had a bunch of music and songs that were left over from that whole project that were still like metal, and everything was fine and dandy. I just decided, I took a break for a minute and try to figure out what would be cool to do musically, and then just kind of went into the songs that I had and started demoing them. Tom and I the idea was that I was going to do a solo record or something like that, and Tom was going to play bass, and we get our friends to play, guest appearances or whatever.
That's how we all came around.
One thing led to another. I reached out to Will Carroll because Will is from San Francisco, and we play in another, it's kind of a new wave of British heavy metal band called Quintanica, where we play all sorts of ancient songs that we enjoy, that we listen to when we're just getting back, when we're learning about what was going on in the world of metal. Like, we were very interested in what was happening in Europe. I mean, everything from Denmark scene to the Sweden scene to the French scene with Trust, and then of course the well-known new wave of British heavy metal, where we had Praying Mantis and Iron Maiden, Angel Witch, and so on. And Will is all way into all that stuff too. He's a little younger than us, but he got into it early, and he loves jamming on those songs. So we had him playing in the Quintanica band, playing Angel Witch stuff, and we would play a whole set of Angel Witch stuff from the first record, which is incredibly fun. Believe me, it's that's all super influential stuff. But we would play other sets of various other types of Silver Mountain, ancient old Scorpions with Uli. We would play Satan, stuff like that, all sorts of stuff from the ancient early days of the early 80s metal. And so when I asked Will about playing drums on the new recording project, he was totally okay with it. He thought it was a great idea. So we started demoing a bunch of Angel Witch stuff. And then we started, just because it's just a Quintanica cover band thing. And I have all those songs still. It's pretty fun. It's like way Bay Area version. It's like a Bay Area version of Angel Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the original songs started coming in. I had a whole bunch of different ideas for different material back then. The very first version of Addicted to Power was written when we were still playing in Blind Illusion, but we were just trying to figure out how to write the song, and I hadn't quite got to the point where it was finalized yet. But then I started demoing it more seriously and wrote a really long, interesting middle part, and then the ending, and then there was the One Nation Enslaved, Master Plan. All those songs kind of were all from this era, and then we just kept writing. And then I was talking to Rick the whole time.
Well, tell him about the part where you would take these songs and you would arrange them with Will after you called Tom and Will, him and Will would get in a room together and arrange these songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Super cool.
Will's really great at listening carefully and arranging. So what I would do is I demo these songs where they're just a click track, like a metronome click track, and I would play the guitar to it, and write up, record some version, a kind of rude and crude version of the song. Then I'd send it to Will, and we go, and Will and I would go down to his little studio. He's got a studio here in San Francisco as well. And we would just rehearse the songs and kind of just thrash them out, see what parts sound great, what part, it's just a click track. So you don't even know what it's like with drums until he starts playing it. And then sometimes we would say, oh, wow, that really sounds amazing. I didn't even expect that kind of a beat or whatever. Or he would say something like, oh, well, we can change it like this. Can you play the guitar like to this kind of a beat? And then, we kind of beat the song around the bush. And next thing you know, they solidify into something I could, really get for a final version of the actual song. With other people. And right? then sometimes I'd send the rough final click track versions around to the people, like Rick, because he said he wanted to play solos on it right away, and then he started getting more excited later and started sending a whole bunch of rhythm tracks down, and I'd incorporate them into the stuff I would write, and we'd co-write stuff, and then it's just one thing led to another, and then we started recording them 2 at a time, one weekend after another.
Yep.
Yeah, when I heard the first song, it felt like the way that you guys were playing on that track, it felt like you guys had been playing in that band together for 20 years. I mean, they had that kind of vibe to it. It just felt so natural. And I know all of you, you guys came up through that scene back in the day, but it felt like this band had been together for a very long time. And I think that's part of why I liked, both of these tracks actually, is because you get that vibe. And look, you guys were part of the scene, part of the whole scene that invented it. Right. And I listened to it, and right away it just caught me. And hey, everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.